Good day everyone, welcome to our masterclass on sentence diagramming. My name is Johanna Viale and today we are going to demystify the architecture of the English language. Grammar is often perceived as an abstract set of rigid regulation, but through sentence diagramming, we will convert these rules into visual structured formulas. Think of this as a blueprint for sentence. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to look past a string of random vocabulary and see the underneath that binds the language together. Let's begin our formal discussion. To understand our method, we first need to confront why grammar can feel so overwhelming. Human syntax is endlessly complex. An ordinary sentence can stack clauses, modifiers, and parenthetical elements into confusing maze. Yet, no matter how intimidating a sentence becomes, it fundamentally depends on a singular core engine. The relationship between a subject and a verb, as the quote on the slide details. Diagramming breaks down text into visual picture, mapping out exactly how complex semantic layers expand away from the basic subject-verb framework. Why invest our energy into drawing lines and mapping text? There are three crucial benefits to visual analysis. First, it allows us to immediately identify structural integrity, checking whether a sentence contains a true independent clause or falls apart as a fragment. Second, it unlocks diverse writing. Looking at structural skeletons help you intentionally create varied dynamic sentence forms. And lastly, it provides absolute visual clarity rather than arguing over an abstract grammar handbook rule. You see precisely how words interact with one another on a physical map. Let's pinpoint our specific learning milestone. Our workflow operates across three levels: identification, functionality, and exploration. First, you must identify individual parts of speech. Next, you look at their functionality to observe how separate components collaborate to forge a complex arrangement. Finally, we explore advanced method of joining element using sophisticated grammatical modifiers and connective clauses. We are moving from simple vocabulary recognition to an advanced understanding of full syntactic mechanics. Before we draw our first line, we need to master our core vocabulary. In part 1 of our component breakdown, we look at primary elements. The subject is our anchor, the actor or focus on the sentence. The predicate is the action of or verb state. The direct object receives the action directly from the verb. And finally, the indirect object identifies who or what receives the direct object, answering to whom or for what. The action occurs memorize these four building blocks. They populate our primary baselines. Part 2 introduces the supporting cast that adds detail to our sentence. Prepositions are operational signals that establish spatial, directional, or temporal relationship between words or modifiers, like adjectives and the adverbs. Provide descriptive clarity about our subject, and verbs articles are small, highly specific subset of modifiers consisting of a, an, and the. Lastly, clauses are advanced structural blocks that provide contextual background but cannot stand alone as independent thoughts. A major issue in writing is structural confusion, such as misplaced modifiers or incorrect subject-verb agreement. In complex sentences, long string of words hide the true subject from the verb. Diagramming solves this problem immediately by stripping out intermediate text and placing words into dedicated visual slots. Agreement errors become impossible to miss. As a rule, subject and verb must align in number, and modifier must visually connect next to the specific word they modify. We have now reached our foundational operational rule. Let's walk through these 5 core steps. First, scan your sentence to identify all part of speech. Second, pull out your primary elements, the subject, verb, and direct object, and group them onto the shared baseline. Third, separate your subject and verb using a bold vertical line that slices completely through the baseline. Fourth, separate your verb and direct object with a vertical line that stops at the baseline without crossing it. Finally, attach modifiers underneath on slanted lines. Now, how to do a diagram sentence? Let's take a closer look at the concept of the baseline. The baseline is the foundational platform for your entire diagram. Think of it as a sentence skeleton. When we creating it, do not follow the original word order of the sentence. Follow structural order. Instead, start by placing the subject on the left and the verb on the right, separated by our cross-through line. If a direct object exists, extend the same baseline out to the right and drop a clean boundary line that rests the right on the top of the base. Once your baseline is secure, you can look below it to place modifiers and complex connections. Simple modifiers extend downward on descriptive slanted lines. For prepositional phrases, we use a two-part approach. Draw a slanted line for the preposition, then extend a flat horizontal shelf from that line to hold the preposition's object. When dealing with compound sentences, stack each clauses on its own separate baseline, then link them with a dotted connector line that holds your coordinating conjunction. Let's look at a concrete example using the sentence vegetables disgust Philip. First, identify the components. Vegetables is the noun acting as our subject. Disgust is our active verb and Philip is the direct object receiving the action. To diagram this, draw a straight baseline. Write vegetables, draw a vertical line slicing completely through the baseline. Then write disgust. Next, draw a vertical line that stops right at the baseline and write Philip. You have successfully drawn a basic sentence structure. Rule 3 covers indirect object. Let's look at the sentence, the farmers gave their kids fresh vegetables. Our core baseline elements are the subject farmers, the verb gave, and the direct object vegetables. But who received those vegetables? The kids did, making kids our indirect object. To diagram this, drop a slanted line down from the verb gave. Then transition it into horizontal line to hold the word kids. Notice that the possessive modifier there hangs on a slanted line branching directly beneath kids. Rule 4 covers linking verbs. Take a look at the sentence, vegetables are disgusting. Here is a linking verb that acts like an equal sign rather than an action. It connects our subject to a descriptive state called a predicate adjective. To show this link visually, do not use a vertical direct object line. Instead, draw a backward slanted line that points directly back towards the subject. This backward slant visually demonstrates that the description modifies the subject. Let's expand our linking verb example by adding detailed modifiers. The green vegetables are always disgusting. Our core baseline remains vegetables are disgusting. Now let's attach our modifiers branching beneath the subject vegetables. Draw two separate slanted lines, one for the article the and one for the adjective green. Next, look at the adverb always because it modifies the descriptive state disgusting. Draw a slanted line extending directly beneath disgusting to hold always. Rule 6 addresses verbal modifiers and prepositional structure. First, look at participles verb acting as adjectives like working. In working, farmers enjoy vegetables. To show that working has verbal roots, place it on the distinct bent line that wraps around the bend. Next, look at preposition in the kids. Throw the vegetables in the trash. Drop a slanted line down from through for the preposition in. Then branch into a flat horizontal shelf for its object trash. Rule 7 covers conjunction which link thoughts together. We use two different approaches based on a sentence type. For simple joiners within a single clause, like fruits and vegetables, split the baseline into fork, then reconnect it using a vertical dotted line that holds the conjunction and. For compound sentences with two separate clauses, stack both baseline completely, then connect the verbs of both clauses using a step dotted line to hold the coordinating conjunction. Rules 8 and 9 address appositive and infinitives. An appositive redefines an adjacent noun like herbivore, renaming I because they share the same functional space. Place the appositive verb in parentheses directly next to the noun it modifies. On the baseline, infinitives which are verb forms preceded by to, acting as nouns or modifiers, require a distinct approach. Since they function as a single unit, place the infinitive up on its own elevated pedestal that branches off the baseline. Our final advanced module covers gerund and noun phrases. Gerunds are ing verbs acting as nouns like eating and eating vegetables is good for you. To show their complex identity, draw them on an elevated staircase platform that sits directly on the subject baseline. For full noun, phrases like that she ate more vegetables elevate the entire secondary clause on a pedestal above the main line if an introductory word like that is implied, but missing mark is slot with X in parentheses. We have completed our comprehensive structural journey. Let's summarize.